All right, everyone, we're back again. I am Cashin Yu, Program Support Specialist for the Community Action Partnership and the host of today's web event. Just to start off with a little bit of the technical information, you should be able to hear me out of your computer speakers. If you have any issues with that at all, you can go up to the Communicate tab at the top and Audio Broadcast to restart the stream. If for some reason you were to lose your internet connection or have any issues with the broadcast, you can use the teleconference number that was in your confirmation email and also available on that Communicate tab. If you do have any technical issues during the webinar, do find me in the chat window on the right-hand side, and we will try to do some on-the-fly technical assistance with you if we need to. If you have questions during today's event, you can put those into the Q&A box that's also on the right-hand side. Put them in as soon as they come to you. We have a couple of strategic points where we're going to kind of stop and look through any questions that have come in so that we can address them while we're looking at a particular section of the site. So no need to hold them all for the end. Send them in as soon as they come to you. Again, we are recording this event, so if you need to review it any time, if you have colleagues that you'd like to point in the direction, we are recording this, and we will put up these slides as well. So with that, we have a couple of different speakers today. Of course, you've heard me, Cashin Yu, Program Support Specialist for the Community Action Partnership. We also have Andy Cruz, Program Specialist at the Community Action Partnership, and Sandra Mendez, who is the Director of State Assistance at NASCSP, the National Association for State Community Services Programs. And actually, I'm going to hand it over to Sandra to get us started with some intros for today.
Thanks, Cashin. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Sandra Mendez. I'm the State Assistance Director with the National Association for State Community Services Programs. We'd like to welcome you to this important webinar about accessing and using the CSBG T and TA Resource Center. The CSBG T and TA Resource Center is a joint venture between the Community Action Partnership and NASCSP, and it began approximately 2 years ago. NASCSP was very interested in developing a web-based application that could be used as a platform to provide CSBG state offices with training or technical assistance in a more formalized way. We were also very interested in establishing a clearinghouse of resources that could be accessed by state offices when administering the CSBG grant. After some discussion with the partnership, we discovered that they were also considering a database for very much the same purposes, to provide training and technical assistance to community action agencies across the country, and also to establish a resource or a consultant bank that might be available to meet the ongoing and changing training needs of CAAs and state associations. It was then that a partnership was developed. In that, we had very similar goals, and we realized that we could complement one another's activities. In addition to that, we had both been funded by separate OCS grant activities that would allow us to work on this together. So what I'd like to go over is one important factor. The system is built on a few primary principles, but there's one I'd like to highlight today. Confidentiality in the system is paramount. Any information regarding training or technical assistance requests or responses is held in the utmost of confidence. The partnership does not see the requests submitted by state offices, and NASCSP does not see the requests submitted by CAAs or by state associations. We've ensured this via the use of an electronic firewall that prevents respective agency staff from accessing one another's files. So as we receive training and technical assistance requests from state offices, those requests come directly to NASCSP. They're responded to by NASCSP staff, and any action plans that we develop or assist the state with, that also goes directly from the NASCSP staff to the state office. The function is similar for community action agencies and state associations. Their requests go directly to the partnership, and partnership staff receive it, and they respond to it without consulting with NASCSP staff. So there's a very specific firewall between the two. So finally, just for a brief system overview, the CSBG T and TA Resource Center consists of 4 separate modules. The first is a T and TA request module. The second is a shared calendar. There's a resource bank, there's a consultant bank, and there's also a discussion forum. We've worked very hard the last 2 years to develop a database that will meet the resource needs of the national network both now and into the future. We're pleased to report that since the initial development and implementation of the database in 2011, the system has evolved and been modified to include functionalities for the Regional Performance and Innovation Consortia, and we're also working on new functionalities for state associations so that they can tabulate their own T and TA requests and responses. We're also working on improvements to the system to help user navigation, and we're also working to incorporate the 2013 Center of Excellence T and TA strategies pursued by the Federal Office of Community Services. So first, we'd like to demonstrate how you can access the website. The system can be accessed via 2 separate portals, the NASCAP website, or you can also go to the partnership website. First, let's see the NASCAP website. So when you get to the NASCAP website, you can scroll down, click on the purple tab that says Clearinghouse, and then click on the underlined CSBG Training and Technical Assistance Resource Center. And that will take you directly to the TNTA logon page. You can also access the system by going to the Community Action Partnership website. You can go to the National Training Center, or you can go to the CSBG TNTA Resource Center tab. And then click on the button to log on, the CSBG and TNTA Resource Center, and it'll take you to the logon page as well. So now that we're on the logon page, Ashton can log on, and then we'll demonstrate a little bit on the TNTA module.
Will do. I actually have a ton of alter egos actually on the Resource Center, but I'm actually going to step through a new user registration just to highlight a couple of things about how you guys will join in. So you do get to put in your name, which we'll just do a quick one here. I want to highlight this organization type. Now there's a couple of different reasons why this is actually the most important question on this page. First, when we get to the second one, it determines a list. We have these pre-populated with all of the nonprofit CAAs, all of the public or government-based CAAs, the state associations, as well as the state CSBG offices. The other side of that is the firewalls that Sandra was mentioning earlier. This actually identifies particularly what type of user, and then the system knows that if you are, in fact, a private CAA, a public CAA, or a state association, that any of your communications, your T&TA requests, are going to go directly to the partnership. Likewise, if you select the state, territory, or tribe CSBG office, those things go directly to NASCSP. So we'll go ahead and select one here. We are looking for your job title. Be nice and easy here. And of course it asks for your email address. This is going to be your username when you get in and how you will log back in. Therefore, we do ask you to confirm it since this is setting up your profile. Phone number just to get some basic contact information from you, and you get to create your own password. Now, just to make sure that we don't have automated entries that are coming in, it does have a brief security question, which is always a test to make sure in our demonstrations that we actually answered the question correctly. Click on the Save and Continue button once you have everything put in here. And it does take a moment because it is deciding, of course, which part of the database to work from. And of course taking longer than normal just because we are demonstrating it and putting it through its paces today. All right. Well, while that's doing that, then we will use one of our others to try to see if we can log in that way then. All right, hold on just a moment.
So while we're waiting for the website to update, I'd like to just discuss some of the advantages of using this. A lot of, there was a lot of thought into, and this is actually Andy Cruz, the program specialist with the Community Action Partnership, and a lot of thought went into how we could really make this kind of a one-stop shop for all your training and technical support needs. And we're really kind of focusing on usability, how best to allow the users to be able to access the website, and we're looking at ways to kind of combine not only the resources you get from the website, such as toolkits and so forth, but as well we're looking at combining webinars and things like that. So users will not only be able to access static, I would say, resources, but they'll also be able to access different, visual and audio resources as well. And of course, Sandra will talk more about that, but we'll just give you a kind of a general overview while the website is updating. And other kind of features that you'll find are the ability to access a forum and really use this as an opportunity to not only learn more about the network and get training and technical assistance, but also then to talk with other people. We've created a forum. We've created basically a virtual world in which people can talk, exchange, or not literally talk, however, exchange ideas in a variety of different ways. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and switch to PowerPoint slides just because it's a little quicker right now. Our internet connection has become a little slow. I think we have some other users taking up some bandwidth right now. So just to ensure that things move a little slower, we're going to go ahead and switch to some PowerPoint slides, and that'll kind of keep things moving quick.
Thank you, Andy. And again, we apologize for that. It's our fault for running 2 or 3 different webinars at once, I believe. So I have switched over to some screenshots, and we'll give a look at the live demonstration a little bit later, and we'll see if that works now. But just to keep us moving. So when I was on the login page there, we put in the email address and created our own profile. Once you get in, you have several screens across the top. You can join into any of these modules that were mentioned before, as well as do a little bit about the about and the contact. That way you can catch up a little bit on what NASCSP is doing, the partnerships, the CSBG, the general information page, as well as several links to a lot of our partners, both in the network and through training and technical assistance. There is also, let's go through this, is the screenshot that we just showed there. And here's the page that we did not get to, the second half, where I was referring to the drop-down menu, where you would, in fact, get to choose the name of your CAA out of the list based upon your answer to the previous question about whether you were a public CAA, private CAA, state office, or state association. Save and continue through that so that you do, in fact, get to your own dashboard. Now, this is kind of your personal homepage, I guess would be the way to say it. This is information that is unique to you, as it shows that currently this user does not have any TNTA requests pending. We'll get to that in a minute on how to insert one. You also have the ability to now enter into any part of the system once you are signed in. All of the links are on the right-hand side as well as across the top to get to the different modules. You can update your profiles, you have new contact information, anything like that. You have the ability to do that, as well as change passwords or anything that you need to do for your particular profile. Now, across the top there, I'll get back to one that shows you, we also have a contact screen. That contact screen is available regardless of whether you have signed in or not. So if you experience any difficulties, you have questions, and you haven't even made it to the point of being able to get into the system yet, you can use that contact page. Again, it does ask you to select whether you are part of a state office, a public or private CAA, whether you're a consultant, we'll get to that as well, so that we make sure that your communications do go to the partnership or to NASCSP, depending on your location in the network. Again, trying to think about the confidentiality at each step of the way, because we know that training and technical assistance can be a sensitive issue. All right, and with that, I believe we do have a question or two that have come in, so we will address those. And I believe it is for Sandra. Sandra, you said that you are working on a platform for RPICs. What did you have in mind, and what kind of timelines?
Tricia, thank you for that question. What we did about 6 months ago, when we were made aware of the new TNTA strategy for the network from OCS that included development of the Regional Performance and Innovation Consortia, we incorporated new functionality into the system that would allow the RPICs to access the database in a more administrative capacity. And basically what they'll be able to do is to accept training and technical assistance requests from their respective regions, community action agencies, and state associations. They'll be able to tabulate those TNTA requests and also process them. Now, the reason that we're incorporating that functionality, that the RPICs and the state association group, is because they also provide training and technical assistance to the network in various shames or fashions. And what we want to do is, to the extent feasible, develop nationwide reports of the kinds of TNTA that are being requested by the network, so that we can develop a shared strategy about meeting the TNTA needs of the network as a whole. So essentially what we would do is we would aggregate those reports. For example, again, there are firewalls between what an RPIC can see in the database and what NASCSP can see in the database, but we do intend to share aggregated information so that essentially, say, if the RPIC wanted to know in their area what kinds of TNTA requests are being submitted and are there any common areas, it would assess that RPIC in establishing a training curriculum that's targeted just for their region. So that was kind of the overall vision that we had for the RPICs, and one that we're moving towards for the state associations in the upcoming year. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you, Sandra. And I have not seen other questions that have come in at this point, though of course you are encouraged to put them in as soon as you think of them. All right, so with that, I believe we are going to hand over to Andy here, who is going to talk about submitting a training and technical assistance request.
Thank you, Cashin. Yes, so obviously the next step after you register, or a next step after you register, would be to actually submit a training and technical support request. This is a fairly simple process. Once you register, you receive a dashboard, as you see here. From there, you simply click on the Start New Request button, and from there, you will receive another screen. From here, you're able to go ahead and select the type of request or the type of request classification, as well as put in a detailed description of what you'll be looking for. As you can see, you can select leadership, strategic planning, among a host of different other options, and this allows us basically to better track the type of request we receive, and from there we can go ahead and actually make better TNTA materials from this. That way we can have more focused TNTA materials. Below you see your detailed TNTA request. That is where you can actually explain what you're actually looking for. Okay? And what you can see below, too, one other point I'd like to mention here is your file upload. Depending on your type of TNTA request, you might be required to upload different files. And this basically allows you to do that. It's a very simple process. You simply click on Browse and then upload it from your computer. It's similar to the basic process of just accessing a file on your computer, selecting it, and then just opening it, and then it just uploads directly into the TNTA website. Can we go back one slide? So once you select your TNTA request, or once you've submitted your TNTA request, then what will happen is you'll see it pop up on your user dashboard, and as you can see, it shows the varying levels of your request. Once it goes in, you can see it will show that it will show that the TNTA request has been acknowledged, and then it'll show just where you are in this process, so you can kind of readily get an idea of the status of your TNTA request. And it should be noted, generally we try, at least any TNTA request that we receive here, we try and aggressively respond to. We certainly do not want this to be faceless or kind of a faceless or nameless system. Generally, you should know that once our TNTA requests are received here, we look at them and we try and get on them as soon as possible. And response time is something that's very important to us, and we definitely like you to know that once you submit this TNTA request, the door is opened, and we are there to assist.
All right. Was there more that you wanted to add on TNTA?
No, I think we're good.
All right. With that, we're actually going to move over to Sandra to talk about our resource bank a little bit, and we are going to try one more time to walk through the live portion of this. All right, Sandra, the ball is officially in your court, so to speak.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try to log onto the system, the web browser here, if you'll bear with me for just a second. Okay. So, just to move forward, we lost a little bit of the online experience really briefly, but we're back online. Can everyone see the database now, the online database?
They should be able to. We can see the top half of the screen anyway, so you will need to scroll as you go down.
Okay, good. Then the next module that we wanted to cover was the resource bank module. Now, what you can do is get to that from the home screen by scrolling over to the resource bank. Click on the blue button, and it should take us directly there. Okay, and this is the resource bank. Now, the resource bank contains toolkits, guidebooks, webinar recordings, and other information that can help a community action professional in administering or operationalizing any CSBG-funded program or effort. Examples of what you'll find include things like recorded webinars that are conducted by experts on the subject matter, practical toolkits and guidebooks to help operationalize the nuts and bolts of a program, and to help you meet the federal mandates or laws that are consistent with the CSBG. It also includes sample templates that are used in the field in various areas like strategic planning, procurement, needs assessments, and other areas of interest to CSBG managers or field practitioners. We've also incorporated a clearinghouse of evidence-based or evidence-informed programs from outside the CAA network that might be replicated or modified for a CAA infrastructure. Many of the programs include an evaluation component demonstrating specific results achieved by the program based on scientific evaluation methodology. So what we've tried to do is develop a resource bank that includes a lot of different types of resources that will help both a practitioner in the field that might be out doing a needs assessment to a program administrator that's looking for a way to improve maybe the way their board functions, all the way to maybe a state office that's looking for ways to improve the results that they achieve in their programs by looking at other social service programs that are incorporating evidence-based or evidence-informed program methodologies that might be replicated. So it's kind of a whole lot of different things that can be used by various areas of the network. So first what I'd like to do is show you the search capabilities. If you look across the top, there's a button that says Browse All Resources. If you click on that, what the system will do is it will bring up every single resource that we've loaded onto the resource bank. And you'll see I'm scrolling, and I don't have an exact count of what we've loaded, but I know that we've loaded at least 60 evidence-based, evidence-informed programs and a whole lot of other guidebooks and toolkits. So you're going to see a whole lot of resources loaded onto the bank. That'll give you kind of a bird's eye view of what's out there. The second search function I'd like to demonstrate is the basic search function. And what you can do under this search function is narrow your search down with the basic keyword. What I'm going to use is needs assessment because so many people really ask about how to conduct an effective needs assessment. I know I'm misspelling that, sorry. There we go. Okay, and you click search. And what the system will do is it will narrow down your search criteria and only bring up those resources that are loaded onto the bank that have needs assessment listed in the title or in the body of the document. And you can see it will highlight in the title the needs assessment keyword. Okay, so the third function I'd like to demonstrate is the advanced search. If you'd like to further narrow down your search, what you can do is do a search on a key area. For example, if you're interested in the subject matter of leadership or governance or strategic planning, you can identify those as well and further narrow down your search. What I'm going to do right now is under the advanced search, I'm wondering if there's a webinar on the data bank that is about needs assessments. so that I could watch it if I'd like to. So I do a search on webinar needs assessment. And what that will do is it will bring up any resources that we have available that include a webinar based on the subject that you were looking for. What I like to do is under display order, I always like to look at the published date. What's the most recent published date of some of the information? I like to find the most recent information out there and click search. And what the system will do is it will generate a list of the most recent all the way down to the most distant. So if you click on, the very first one was just published January 23rd, 2013. It'll demonstrate the organization that published it, the National Training Center, and who the author is, and it'll give you the first few lines of a description. So if you click on that particular resource, the bank will take you to the page that further describes the information. It provides the link to the recorded webinar so you can watch it, and it'll also give you any online toolkits or guidebooks that support the webinar. So if you click on this, it'll take you to the webinar so you can listen to it right then and there. If you click on the needs assessment tool, let's go there. What the system will do is download that particular toolkit so that you can have it available. And it seems like I might be having problems downloading that one. But in general, what the system will do is it'll download it right then and there for you so that you can have the toolkit in hand while you watch the webinar at the same time, which we think is also outstanding. Now, I'm going to do one last search on the advanced search function, just to show you some of the system capabilities. Let's see. You know, what I'm going to do is a search on monitoring, because so many agencies submit questions about monitoring efforts, how to prepare for monitoring, how to respond to a monitoring finding, and then see what's out there for monitoring. Again, I like to do the most recent published date. And it'll bring up any resources that you might find useful for preparing for a monitoring. Now, the one that I like is this one that was published April 19, 2012. It's Monitoring Map for Community Action Agencies. The author is Kapla. And if you click on that, that'll show you the webinar on how to prepare for a monitoring effort. And you can also download the supporting documents that support that webinar. Some of the other search criteria that you might think about using are monitoring needs assessment. You can do a search on tripartite board or nonprofit boards. You can do a search on preparing for an audit or use the strategic planning search criteria. So there's a whole lot of different kinds of resources that we've loaded out there that we think you'll find useful. Once you've done your search, if you don't find what you need, you can also call us and we can help you find the resource as well. So that is our brief overview of the resource bank. And next, Andy will be talking about the consultant bank.
Thanks, Sandra. I appreciate that. So we're going to head on over to the consultant bank and take a look at how you guys can access the, I would call it the yellow pages of TTA knowledge. Sandra just showed you our online library, and I'm going to give you an idea of how you can access the online yellow pages, I guess you could say. If you go ahead and once you're logged in, you'll go up to the top of the screen and you should see a tab called Consultant Bank. Simply click on that tab and it should bring you to a search page, similar to what you saw with the resource bank. And we're just waiting for that to download right now, and hopefully it'll zip on over. Oh, and while we're waiting for that, the good thing about the consultant bank is that we've kind of installed an evaluative process to ensure that the consultants that are in there really truly offer just top-notch services. And I think we've done a good job in ensuring that the consultants are generally just top-notch. What you'll find, I think, also is that we have a bit of a variety too. They have certainly entered in, and their various levels of expertise, and have just really shown and have had the opportunity to display what they can do for the network through this tool. And I think you'll find that once you kind of get in and you're actually able to access the consultants, you'll find that they will actually be able to provide a wide range of services to meet various technical and training support needs. As we're still waiting, we'll keep. I'll just explain a little more about it. The consultant bank offers you the ability to search not only by keyword, but also by different types of expertise. If you click on, yeah, that would be good. Let's go ahead and click on slide 23, and then we'll go from there. Great, thanks. So as you see here, this is what you'll see when you move into the consultant bank. You'll have various types of searches. As you can see here, you see Roma certified, you can search by RPIC, and you can search by state. Once you do that, you can just click View Results on the bottom, and then you will see, can we move on? Thanks. You'll see a list of different consultants. In this case, I think this was a search done on leadership, and as you can see, you have you have Susan Smith there. You have just a whole host of different types of consultants. When this page comes up, you can go ahead and just click on the View Consultant link, and it brings you to this page here. That gives you just a general idea of the services they offer. As you can see there, they have a personal statement which describes in their own words what they can offer to the network. Additionally, you can see links in which they uploaded actual examples of their materials. And I think this is just an excellent tool in that it will allow you to better evaluate yourself what these guys have to offer. And then, of course, you have just your basic contact information. And from there, once you kind of have decided, you can just head back to your dashboard and move on from there. So the consultant bank offers you not only consultant information, but it does offer direct contact information as well. So I think that's what we have for the consultant bank, and we can move on over to the calendar and the form.
All right, thank you, Andy. I have this as one of my points to stop and look for questions, though I have not seen anything, so I do encourage you to go ahead and put those in. If you have questions at any point, any screen that you want us to go back to, how does something work, do go ahead and put those in. We are here to help today. So back on that dashboard, if we were to move on, then we can see the shared calendar. That is one of your choices across both the top and on that right quick link side. Now, the shared calendar is exactly what it says it is on this case. This is a place where we put in all of our events, both as national partners, and where we put in any of the events that you send to us that need to be on there. If you have an open training session that you would be inviting other CAPs to join, that would be something we would like to see on here. We will try to work with the state associations and the RPICs to send us their events. There's kind of a dual point to these. First off, that you can put in information for users to particularly see. when the location is, where, when, descriptions. There's URLs for additional information or for registration links for any of the events. And on the other side, it also helps with scheduling. You kind of get to have an idea about, you know, what's going on generally in the network. Unfortunately, the calendar that we have from the screenshot is actually from this summer, as opposed to a very recent one, which we had hoped to show you, that would have had all the information on the listening sessions that we have done through the standards that we feel like people have been doing. Now, as I mentioned, you can suggest an event to us. Once you are logged into the system, there's a small button up there that does say Suggest an Event. That is where you get to put in information. It comes to all of us, actually, all the administrators, and we have a system then to go ahead and add those in to the calendar. One of the other modules here is the discussion forum. This is also kind of an informal way of getting at training and technical assistance in that we have several different categories set up where you can start different threads and ask your peers for help, ask us for help, generally start musing out loud, however the case may be. There are, of course, several places that are already set out. And of course, there are a couple of open forums as well as suggestion boxes where you can let us know what we need to add. Once you click on a particular category, you can see all the topics within that category, and then click on individual posts to be able to read and respond to them. With that, I think we're probably about ready to kind of start a little bit of the wrapping up in a sense. I wanted to remind everybody about contacting both the center, the National Training Center, and the State Performance Management Clearinghouse. There are, of course, multiple ways. We saw the contact button at the very beginning. Of course, coming through our websites, we are always available for phone or through email. And I'll go ahead and put those up for you so you can see those websites again as to how you can get to us. We try to think about it as there's no wrong way. You can put in a TTA request. If you know specifically what you need or have absolutely no idea what you need, you can go in through the resource bank or consultants banks to find something very specific, as well as the calendar or the forum to do the more informal TNTA in that sense. So with that, actually, I think we'll pass back on over to Sandra to let us know your closing remarks.
Great. Thank you very much, Cashin. Only that we really are looking for the Clearinghouse and the work that the partnership is doing on their grant efforts to act as a platform for training and technical assistance and resources that are available throughout the network, both now and in the future, as we move forward, especially with some of the new changes that are going on with the Office of Community Services and their new standards of excellence, training and technical assistance models that include the development on new performance measurements for the network through the Urban Institute, the partnership's outstanding work that they're presently doing on organizational standards for community action, and also NASCSP's efforts on Roman Next Generation. We're using the system we're developing the system as a platform to allow for information dissemination for all three of those standards of excellence program models, and also we'll be loading any resources that the network will need in the next 2 years to be able to incorporate any changes resulting from those projects. So as you move forward and you see changes being implemented, make sure that you touch back with the Resource Center to see what kind of resources we have available to you to help you incorporate some of those. Other than that, that's what I've got, and I'd like to thank you for participating today.
Great, thank you, Sandra. Hi, folks. This is Denise Harlow with the National Training Center here at the partnership. Sorry I missed the most of the webinar. Again, I just want to offer my thanks for being tuned in today and encourage you to reach out to us if we can be of any assistance in any way at any time.
All right, then. Well, just as a reminder, this was recorded, and we will be posting that. There is an evaluation that will pop up at the end. We appreciate your participation in that, and we hope that you will be joining us in the future. We do webinars through the National Training Center, usually monthly, and coming up in March we have a great one based on one of our toolkits, Audit Essentials, What Every Board Needs to Know, with Kevin Mirren. So we look forward to seeing you in March. Registration information for that is available on the Partnership's website and on the shared calendar of the TNTA Resource Center. With that, I think we are ready to go for today. Thank you everyone for joining us.